The Galactic Council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floor. 47 species gathered under the dome that showed the stars beyond. Each species had their seat, their voice, their power. Some had been part of the council for 10,000 years. Others joined only centuries ago. But all of them agreed on one thing. The newer species must respect the older ones. The weaker must bow to the stronger. Humanity had joined the galactic community only 50 years ago. In cosmic terms, they were infants. The council had welcomed Earth with smiles and promises. They offered technology, trade routes, and protection. But protection always came with a price. Earth learned this the hard way. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the center of the chamber. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. Around her, holographic projections of alien delegates floated in the air. Some looked like insects. Others resembled ocean creatures or living crystals. A few had no physical form at all, existing as patterns of energy. The Kreth representative spoke first. His species looked like massive reptiles covered in metallic scales. They controlled 12 star systems and commanded the 3rd largest fleet in the galaxy. The human colony on New Terra sits on land that historically belonged to the Kreth Empire. We claim it as our rightful territory. Chen's face remained calm. New Terra was uninhabited when we arrived. We followed all protocols. We registered the claim with the council. We have been there for 20 years. 20 years is nothing, the Kreth ambassador hissed. Our ancestors held that world 3,000 years ago. Ancient rights supersede modern claims. This is council law, their delegates murmured in agreement. The Vaxorians nodded their crystalline heads. The Quellan made clicking sounds that their translators turned into words of support. Chen looked around the chamber. She saw no friendly faces. No one would stand with humanity today. The council arbiter, an ancient being called the Eldest, spoke in a voice like wind through empty halls. The council has reviewed the Kreth claim. We find merit in their historical argument. The human colony must evacuate New Terra within 90 days. Chen stepped forward, and if we refuse? Silence fell across the chamber. Several delegates made sounds of shock. One did not simply refuse a council decision. The Eldest holographic form flickered. That would be most unwise, Ambassador Chen. The council expects compliance from all member species. I asked a question, Chen said quietly. What happens if Earth refuses? The Kreth representative laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Then we will remove you ourselves. The Kreth fleet will blockade your little colony. Your people will have no food, no supplies, no hope. They will beg us to accept their surrender. Chen looked directly at the Kreth hologram. You would attack human civilians over a land dispute? We would enforce council law, the Kreth said. As is our right. Chen turned slowly, looking at each delegate in turn. And the rest of you? You support this? The Vaxorian speaker made a sound like bells chiming. The strong must lead, Ambassador. The weak must follow. This is the natural order. Humanity must learn its place in the galaxy.
I see,
Chen said softly. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small data crystal. Then let me be absolutely clear. I am transmitting this conversation to Earth right now. I want my government to hear exactly what the council has decided. They may hear whatever they wish, the Eldest said. The decision stands. New Terra will be evacuated. The Kreth have permission to enforce this ruling by any means necessary. Chen smiled. It was not a warm smile. Thank you, honored council. You have made everything very clear. You've shown us exactly who you are and what you value. Earth will remember this day. She turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, several delegates made sounds of confusion. The arbiter called out, Ambassador Chen, this hearing is not concluded. You have not acknowledged the council's authority?
How?
Chen stopped. She did not turn around. Oh, I acknowledge it. I acknowledge that the council permits stronger species to threaten weaker ones with violence. I acknowledge that might makes right in this chamber. I acknowledge that our trust was misplaced. You speak dangerously, the Kreth representative growled. Do not test our patience. Now Chen did turn. Her eyes were cold and hard. Test your patience. No, I'm clarifying the rules of engagement. You've just taught humanity an important lesson. Thank you for that. She walked out. The doors sealed behind her with a sound like thunder. In the chamber, confused murmurs rose from the delegates. The Kreth representative made a dismissive gesture. Typical human emotions. They will comply or they will suffer. It makes no difference. She seemed very calm for someone whose people just lost a world, the Vaxorian observed. Fear makes some species go quiet, the Kreth said. The blockade begins tomorrow. Within a week, the humans on New Terra will be begging for mercy. The eldest considered the closed doors where Ambassador Chen had departed. Something about her final words troubled the ancient being. But the decision was made. The law was clear. Humanity would learn to respect the Council's authority far across the stars. On Earth, Sarah Chen's transmission reached the Global Defense Council. She had sent not just the audio of the meeting, but a single coded phrase embedded in her final words. Protocol Omega was now active. In military bases across Earth and her colonies, millions of personnel received their orders. Ships that had been disguised as cargo haulers began arming their weapons. Satellites that everyone thought were for communications started moving into attack positions. Civilians on 40 human worlds received evacuation notices. Humanity had hoped for peace. They had wanted to be part of the galactic community, but they had not been naive. For 30 years, while smiling and trading and learning from aliens, they had also been preparing the Galactic Council. Had just declared war on Earth. They simply did not know it yet. Kreth fleet of 40 warships arrived at New Terra, system 50 hours after the council hearing. They found the planet's orbital stations abandoned but functioning. The colony below had gone dark. Admiral Krethkul opened a communication channel. Humans of New Terra, this is the Kreth Imperial Fleet. You have been given lawful orders by the Galactic Council. Surrender your colony and evacuate immediately. You have 12 hours to comply. The response came not from New Terra, but from a small human ship that suddenly appeared from behind the planet's moon. The voice was calm and professional. Admiral, this is Captain James Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We acknowledge your message. We invite you to depart this system immediately. You have 12 hours to comply. Cross the Kreth fleet. Warriors made sounds of amusement. The Admiral's laughter echoed through the communication channel. You have one small ship. We have 40. Leave now, little human, before you embarrass yourself. Admiral Morrison said quietly, You have been warned. The communication ended. The Kreth Admiral ordered his fleet to advance. They would teach these arrogant primates about real power. None of them noticed the three. Human cargo ships that had been drifting in the outer system for weeks, now changing course. None of them detected the weapons platforms humanity had hidden in the asteroid belt. None of them understood that, Captain. Maurice's ship was not meant to fight. It was meant to mark targets. Earth's retaliation was about to begin. Earth's brutal retaliation stunned the Galactic Council into silence. Part 2. The Counter-Strike Kreth fleet advanced toward New Terra in perfect formation. Admiral Krethkul watched his displays with satisfaction. 40 warships against one small human vessel? This would be over quickly. His species had conquered worlds when humanity was still living in caves. These newcomers needed to learn respect. Admiral, the human ship is retreating behind the planet, his weapons officer reported. Let them run, Krethkul said. Begin bombardment of the orbital stations. Destroy their communications first. Then we will discuss terms of surrender. The fleet's main weapons powered up. Energy readings spiked across dozens of ships. But before they could fire, every sensor board in the fleet suddenly screamed warnings. Multiple contacts. Coming from the asteroid belt. Enemy ships emerging from the outer system. Weapons lock detected. Hundreds of them. Krethkul stared at his displays in confusion. Where'd all these signatures come from? His fleet had scanned the system thoroughly. There had been nothing. Evasive maneuvers. He shouted, All ships, shields to maximum. The first wave hit before they could react. They were not missiles or energy weapons. They were rocks. Thousands of rocks accelerated to incredible speeds by human mass drivers hidden in the asteroid belt. At such velocities, each stone carried the energy of a tactical nuclear weapon. 3 Kreth warships died in the first 10 seconds. The rocks punched through their shields like paper and turned their hulls into expanding clouds of debris. The remaining ships scattered, trying to evade the continuing barrage. Then the real attack began. What the Kreth had thought were cargo ships suddenly opened like flowers. Hundreds of small objects launched from each one. The Kreth identified them as missiles and began firing defensive weapons. But these missiles did not try to dodge. They simply accelerated straight toward the fleet. They're kamikaze drones, the weapons officer shouted. No guidance systems, just engines and explosives. The Kreth shot down dozens, then hundreds. But there were thousands. For every 10 they destroyed, 1 got through. And 1 was enough. The drones were cheap and simple, built for one purpose only: to die while taking an enemy with them. 4 more Kreth warships vanished in balls of plasma. The fleet was in chaos now, ships breaking formation, captains shouting contradictory orders. Admiral Krethkol tried to restore order, but then his own ship shuddered as something struck the port side. Hull breach on decks 4 through 7. Shields failing. Get us out of here, Krethkol commanded. Full retreat. All ships withdraw too. His words were cut off as every system on his ship went dark. Emergency lights flickered on. In the sudden quiet, he could hear his crew making sounds of panic. What happened? Report. His technical officer worked frantically at a manual console. Admiral, it's a virus. Something in that last impact. It's spreading through our computer networks. Life support is failing. Weapons are offline. We're dead in space. Across the fleet, the same thing was happening. The kamikaze drones had not just carried explosives. Some carried sophisticated computer viruses designed specifically to attack Kreth systems. Humanity had studied their technology for years. They knew every weakness, every vulnerability. Within 20 minutes, 37 Kreth warships were either destroyed or disabled. The 3 that remained fled the system at maximum speed, carrying news of the disaster. But Earth was not done. Not even close. While the Kreth fleet died at New Terra, something else was happening across 5 different star systems. In each one, Kreth military installations suddenly found themselves under attack. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck with devastating precision, and vanished before defenders could respond. They used tactics the galactic community considered dishonorable. They attacked supply convoys. They destroyed orbital shipyards. They targeted communication stations and left Kreth commanders unable to coordinate their forces. They did not fight pitched battles in space where the enemy could respond with their full strength. They hit and ran. They struck from ambush. They fought to win, not to follow some ancient code of warrior honor. At Kreth Station 7, a mining facility that produced rare metals for the Empire's fleet, human commandos appeared in the ventilation systems. They had been hiding there for 3 weeks, waiting. Now they moved through the station like ghosts, setting charges on critical systems. By the time the Kreth realized they were under attack, the station was already dying. The humans escaped in stolen shuttles as explosions tore through the facility's core at Kreth Prime Shipyard, where the Empire built its greatest warships. Something even worse happened. The orbital construction facility was enormous, larger than a small moon. Thousands of workers labored there. A dozen massive warships were in various stages of construction. Human cyber warfare specialists, working from ships light years away, had been slowly infiltrating the shipyard's computer systems for months. Now they activated their programs. The shipyard's own automated systems turned against it. Construction robots began tearing apart the ships they were building. Welding arms cut through hull plating instead of sealing it. The facility's reactor safeties disengaged. The shipyard's administrators tried desperately to regain control. But the human programs were too sophisticated. They adapted to every countermeasure. Within 6 hours, the greatest shipyard in the Kreth Empire was a floating ruin. Decades of work destroyed in a single day? The attacks continued for 48 hours. When they finally stopped, the Kreth Empire had lost 17 military installations, 9 supply depots for mining colonies, and their primary shipyard. Their fleet was reduced by 40%. Their ability to project power was crippled, and then Earth sent its terms. Admiral Krethkal, covered from his disabled ship and brought to Kreth Prime, stood before the High Command. They watched a holographic recording of Ambassador Chen. Her face was calm. Her voice was steady. People of the Kreth Empire, this is Ambassador Sarah Chen of Earth. Your fleet attacked our colony world. The Galactic Council gave you permission to do so. We have responded appropriately. Your military capability has been significantly reduced. Your fleets are scattered. Your installations are destroyed. She paused. The High Command members made sounds of rage and humiliation. You may think this was brutal, Chen continued. You may call us monsters. But we simply played by the rules you established. Might makes right. The strong may attack the weak. Well, congratulations. You have discovered that humanity is not weak. Here are our terms. First, the Kreth Empire will withdraw from all disputed territories in sectors 9 through 14. Second, you will pay full reparations to the families of every human killed when you destroyed our cargo vessels. Third, you will acknowledge Earth's sovereign claim to New Terra and all human colonies. Fourth, you will never again threaten human civilians with military action. An elder Kreth commander made a choking sound. She expects us to surrender. After one battle? If you do not accept these terms within 72 hours, Chen said quietly, we will resume operations. We have identified 43 more military targets in your empire. We know where your homeworld is. We know where every colony is. We have been watching you for 30 years. We know everything about you. The recording ended. The High Command chamber was silent. It's a bluff, one commander said, but his voice was uncertain. They cannot possibly. They destroyed 17 installations in 2 days, Krethkal interrupted. They infiltrated our systems. They knew exactly where to strike. They planned this for years. We should gather our remaining fleets and strike back. With what? Krethkal asked quietly. Half our ships are destroyed or disabled. Our shipyard is gone. Our supply lines are broken. And we have no idea where they will attack next. The High Command looked at each other. Pride warred with pragmatism. They were warriors. They did not surrender. But they were also survivors. And survival meant accepting reality. Send a message to the Galactic Council, the High Commander said finally. Tell them what has happened. And ... Prepare a response to the human terms. Across the galaxy, news of the Kreth defeat spread like fire. Every species in the Council received reports. Every government analyzed the data. Every military commander tried to understand how the newcomers had achieved such a complete victory in the Council chamber. The delegates gathered in emergency session. The eldest's holographic form flickered with what might have been concern. Humanity has violated every convention of civilized warfare, the Vaxorian delegate said. They used tactics that are forbidden. They struck without formal declaration. They showed no mercy. They used the tactics that win wars, a quieter voice said. It was the delegate from the Tertian, a small species that usually said little, and they demonstrated something terrifying. They planned for this. They were ready. Ready for what? The Vaxorian demanded. For all of us, the Tertian replied. If they prepared this thoroughly to fight the Kreth, what have they prepared for the rest of us? The question hung in the air. No one had an answer. No one wanted to find out. On Earth, in a secure command center, Sarah Chen watched the galactic news feeds. Humanity had gambled everything on this moment. They had revealed their true strength. Now the galaxy knew that Earth was not weak, not helpless, not prey. The question was what would happen next. Would the Council accept humanity's new position? Or would they unite to destroy the upstart species that refused to bow? Chen did not know. But humanity was ready either way. They had prepared for peace, but they had planned for war. And if war came, The galaxy would learn that humans fought with everything they had. Honor was for those who could afford it. Survival was for those willing to do whatever it took. Hash. Earth's brutal retaliation stunned the Galactic Council into silence. Part 3. The Revelation. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 12 hours. Delegates argued, accused, and demanded answers. In the center of it all, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood calmly, waiting. She had been waiting for 6 hours while they debated what to do about humanity's actions. Finally, the eldest raised one translucent appendage for silence. Ambassador Chen. The Council demands an explanation. Your species has committed acts of war against a fellow Council member. You have violated 17 treaties regarding acceptable conduct in military operations. We defended ourselves, Chen interrupted. The eldest stopped speaking. No one interrupted the eldest. The Kreth attacked our colony with Council permission. We responded. If our response was excessive, then perhaps the Council should not have authorized the initial attack. The Vaxorian delegate's crystalline body glowed with anger. You destroyed 17 military installations. You crippled their fleet. You used forbidden tactics. Forbidden by whom? Chen asked. Show me where in Council law it says that warfare must be conducted according to your preferred traditions. Show me the treaty that requires us to let our people die because destroying military targets is considered impolite. You used viruses to corrupt their computer systems, the Quellan representative clicked. You sent suicide drones against their ships. You attacked civilians at their mining facilities. We attacked military and industrial targets, Chen corrected. Every facility we struck was supporting their war machine. As for how, we attacked them. We used the most effective methods available. War is not a game. When someone threatens to starve our colonies, we do not respond with half measures. A delegate from the Tyrellian Unity spoke up. They were a peaceful species, known for their diplomatic skills. Ambassador Chen, please understand our concern. Your response was so swift, so coordinated, so devastating. It suggests a level of military preparation that disturbs the Council. It suggests you have been planning for war. Lean looked directly at the Tyrellian. Of course we have been planning for war. What did you think we were doing for the last 30 years? Playing games? Silence fell across the chamber. Several delegates made sounds of shock. The eldest leaned forward. Explain. It's very simple, Chen said. When humanity joined the galactic community, we were excited. We thought we had found friends, allies, partners among the stars. But we are not stupid. Every human government studies history. We know what happens when weaker civilizations meet stronger ones. We know about conquest, exploitation, and broken treaties. She walked slowly around the center platform, looking at each delegate in turn. So yes, we hoped for peace. We traded with you. We learned from you. We participated in Council activities with enthusiasm, but we also prepared. We studied every species in this Council. We analyzed your military capabilities. We learned your languages, your technologies, your tactics. We identified every strategic target in your territories. The chamber erupted in angry sounds. Several delegates stood, shouting protests. Chen continued speaking, her voice cutting through the noise. We infiltrated your computer networks. We planted monitoring systems on your trade routes. We mapped the locations of your military bases, your shipyards, your resource extraction facilities. We identified the orbital paths of your defensive satellites. We studied the biology of every species, looking for weaknesses we could exploit if necessary. This is an outrage. The Vaxorian shouted. You admit to espionage against every Council member. I admit to common sense, Chen replied. Did you really think we would join a community of advanced civilizations and just trust that everyone would be nice to us? We're not children. We're a species that survived hundreds of wars on our own world. We learned those lessons in blood. The eldest voice carried a note of something that might have been fear. What exactly have you prepared, Ambassador? Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Everything. We have contingency plans for military conflict with every species in this chamber. Individually or in combination. We know how to fight you in space. We know how to fight you on planetary surfaces. We know what diseases would affect your biology and what chemicals would poison your atmospheres. We know where your homeworlds are and how to reach them." She pulled out a data crystal and held it up. This contains detailed analysis of 17 different species' military capabilities. It includes their fleet compositions, their tactical doctrines, their supply chains, and their vulnerabilities. Would you like me to demonstrate? Shall I describe exactly how we would defeat the Vaxorians? Or the Quellan? Or any other species that decides to threaten human lives? The Vaxorian delegate made a sound like breaking glass. "You would not dare." "We already did," Chen said softly. "Did you miss what happened to the Kreth? They had a larger fleet than you do. They had better technology than you do. And we defeated them in 2 days. Not because we're stronger, because we were smarter, because we planned. Because we took you seriously even when you dismissed us as primitive newcomers." A younger delegate, representing the Morpheus Collective, spoke hesitantly. "Ambassador, this seems like paranoia. Why would you assume we were all potential enemies?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Not enemies. Potential threats. There's a difference. We hoped every single day that we would never need these plans. We wanted to be wrong about needing them. But hope is not a strategy. Hope does not protect colonies. Hope does not stop fleets from blockading your worlds and starving your civilians." She looked around the chamber. "You taught us to prepare these plans. Every treaty you made that favored older species over newer ones. Every time you used ancient rights to override modern claims. Every time you let stronger species bully weaker ones. You created a system where might makes right. Well, we learned. We adapted. We made ourselves mighty." The eldest was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke, its voice seemed older, more tired. "So humanity has been studying us, planning to fight us, while pretending to be peaceful partners?" "We were being peaceful partners," Chen insisted. "Those things are not contradictory. We traded fairly. We shared scientific knowledge. We participated in cultural exchanges. We made genuine friends among many species. But yes, the entire time, our military was watching and learning and preparing. Because that is what responsible governments do. They prepare for the worst while hoping for the best." "And now?" the Turellian asked. "What do you want, Ambassador Chen?" "What we've always wanted," Chen said. "To be treated as equals, not as junior members who must accept whatever scraps the older species give us, not as weak newcomers who can be pushed around when convenient. We want the same rights, the same respect, the same protections that every other council species enjoys." "You want to threaten us into compliance?" the Vaxorian said coldly. Chen replied. "We want you to understand that threatening us has consequences. The Kreth learned this lesson. We hope no one else needs to. But if they do," she shrugged. "We're ready," an older delegate from the Cytherian Dominion spoke. They rarely participated in council debates, but their species was one of the founding members. "Young human, you play a dangerous game. You reveal your preparations, thinking it will deter aggression. But some species might see this as a reason to strike first, to eliminate the threat before you become stronger." Chen nodded. "We considered that. In fact, we're counting on it." The chamber went very quiet. "What do you mean?" the eldest asked. "Think about it," Chen said. "If any species decides to attack Earth now, they'll do it with their full strength. They'll commit their entire fleet. They'll strike at our homeworld. They'll try to eliminate us as a threat." She smiled. "And that's when we'll show you what we've really prepared. What you've seen so far, the Kreth operation, that was a limited response to a limited provocation. We used maybe 10% of our actual capabilities." She let that sink in. "If someone attacks Earth itself, we'll respond with everything we have. And I promise you, the galaxy will remember it for 1,000 years. Not because we'll win, we might not, but because we'll make it cost so much that the victor will wish they had left us alone." The Cytherian made a sound like wind through metal pipes. Mutually assured destruction, an ancient human doctrine. Kept our world from nuclear war for 70 years, Chen said. It works because everyone understands the cost. We're extending that principle to the galaxy. Attack us. And yes, you might destroy Earth. But we'll take your homeworld with us. We'll cripple your fleets. We'll poison your colonies. We'll fight with every weapon we have, no matter how brutal or terrible. And even if you win, you'll be so weak that your rivals will devour you. This is madness, the Vaxorian said. But there was less certainty in their voice now. This is survival, Chen corrected. We're the newest species here. We have no ancient alliances to protect us. We have no thousands of years of accumulated goodwill. We have no patrons among the powerful. All we have is ourselves. So we made ourselves too dangerous to attack carelessly and too costly to destroy completely. The eldest seemed to be processing this. So humanity's strategy is to be so threatening that no one dares attack you. No, Chen said. Humanity's strategy is to be so prepared that attacking us is obviously stupid. There's a difference. We don't want to threaten anyone. We want to trade, to learn, to cooperate, but we will not be victims. We will not let our colonies be seized because someone found an ancient map. We will not let our civilians be starved because some elder species decides we need to be taught respect. She looked around the chamber one final time. So here's what happens next. The Council can accept that humanity is a serious power that must be treated as an equal. Or the Council can try to put us back in our place. The first option leads to peace and mutual prosperity. The second option leads to a war that will cripple multiple species and destabilize the entire region of space. You cannot fight all of us, the Vaxorian said. But it sounded more like a question than a statement. You're right, Chen agreed. We can't. But we don't have to. Because you can't agree on anything. The Kreth and the Vaxorians hate each other. The Quellan and the Turellians have border disputes. The Cytherian Dominion has been neutral in galactic politics for 2 centuries. If war starts, maybe 3 or 4 species will actually commit their full fleets. The rest will watch and wait to see who wins. She smiled. And those 3 or 4 species? We have specific plans for each of them. We know exactly how to hurt them badly enough that the others will smell blood in the water. You'll fight each other before you finish us. The chamber was silent. Every delegate understood the terrible truth in her words. The Council was not united. It never had been. It was a collection of rival powers held together by mutual advantage and the threat of mutual destruction. Chen had just added humanity to that equation and changed everything. What do you want? The eldest asked finally. What are your actual demands? I'll present them tomorrow, Chen said. After you've all had time to think about what I've told you, after you've consulted with your governments and your military commanders, after you've looked at your intelligence reports and confirmed that, yes, we really have been planning all of this. She turned toward the exit. Oh, and one more thing. In case anyone is thinking of having me arrested or assassinated, we've thought of that too. My death would trigger certain automatic responses. Let's just say you wouldn't enjoy them. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked out of the council chamber. Behind her, 47 species sat in stunned silence. Realizing that the galaxy had changed, humanity had revealed itself not as naive newcomers or weak prey, but as a species that planned in decades and thought in terms of total war. A species that smiled while cataloging your weaknesses. A species that offered friendship with one hand while holding a knife in the other. The question was, what to do about it? And for the first time in Council history, no one had an answer. Earth's brutal retaliation stunned the Galactic Council into silence. Part 4. The escalation 3 days after Ambassador Chen's revelation, the galaxy was in chaos. Every species was conducting emergency security reviews. They were checking their networks for human infiltration. They were moving fleets to defensive positions. They were having very uncomfortable conversations about how much humanity actually knew. The Galactic Council reconvened for what everyone knew would be a critical session. Chen was already waiting in the center platform when the delegates arrived. She looked calm, almost relaxed. That made many of them nervous. But not everyone was nervous. The Vaxorian Empire had spent 3 days consulting with their allies. They had reached a decision. Their delegate's crystalline body glowed with righteous anger as he spoke. The Vaxorian Empire refuses to be threatened by an upstart species, he declared. We have consulted with the Quellan Alliance, the Drexian Confederacy, and the Horth Collective. Together, we represent nearly a quarter of the Council's military strength. We demand that humanity surrender all military assets, submit to Council oversight, and accept punishment for your actions against the Kreth. Chen raised an eyebrow. Or we will enforce compliance, the Vaxorian said. We are assembling a coalition fleet of 3,000 warships. They will arrive at Earth within 2 weeks. You will surrender your weapons, your defenses, and your aggressive posture. Humanity will learn its proper place in the galactic order. Several other delegates made sounds of approval. The Quellan clicked their agreement. The Drexian representative, a being of living metal, nodded its head. Other species remained quiet, watching to see what would happen. Chen looked at the Vaxorian for a long moment. Then she smiled. You really didn't listen to anything I said, did you? We listened, the Vaxorian replied. We heard threats and boasts from a species with delusions of power. Time to face reality, human. You defeated the Kreth through surprise and deception. You will not surprise us. We are coming in force. You cannot win. It's probably not, Chen agreed. The Vaxorians seemed taken aback by this admission. 3,000 ships is a lot. Even with our preparations, we'd likely lose a direct battle with a force that size. Of course, we won't fight a direct battle. We will have no choice. We will blockade Earth. We will cut off all trade. We will demand surrender. If you refuse, we will bombard your planet until you comply. Chen's smile vanished. Her voice became very cold. You just threatened to bombard Earth, the human homeworld, where 9 billion people live? Let me make sure I understand correctly. You're threatening genocide if we don't surrender our weapons. The Vaxorian hesitated. We would target military installations only. With 3,000 warships bombarding a planet, don't lie. We both know orbital bombardment would kill millions at minimum. Billions, if you're thorough about it. Chen looked around the chamber. Everyone here understands what the Vaxorian just threatened. They've declared their intention to attack our homeworld and kill our civilians if we don't submit. The Turellian delegate spoke up nervously. Surely this can be resolved through negotiation? No, Chen interrupted. The Vaxorians have made their decision. They're going to attack Earth. So let me tell them what will happen when they do. She turned back to the Vaxorian. First, your fleet will never reach Earth. We have weapons positioned along every approach route. Mines that your sensors can't detect. Missile platforms hidden in asteroid fields. Drones that have been drifting in space for years, waiting. You'll lose ships with every light year you advance, except casualties, the Vaxorian said. We will still have enough ships too, Second Chen continued. The moment your fleet enters the Sol system, we will launch relativistic kinetic weapons at 3 Vaxorian worlds. Do you know what a relativistic weapon is? It's a very simple concept. Take a heavy object. Accelerate it to a significant fraction of light speed. Aim it at a planet. The impact releases more energy than 1,000 nuclear weapons. The chamber went very quiet. The eldest spoke in a voice like winter wind. You have relativistic weapons? We have mass drivers, Chen said. We've had them for 80 years. We use them for mining and cargo transport. But any mass driver can become a relativistic weapon if you put enough power into it and remove the safety limiters. We have 17 of them positioned throughout human space. Each one currently has projectiles aimed at specific targets in Vaxorian territory. The Vaxorians glow-dimmed. You're bluffing. Building such weapons in secret would require decades of preparation, Chen asked. Like I told you we'd been doing. Do you want to bet your homeworld that I'm bluffing? The Council would never allow. The Council gave the Kreth permission to attack our colony, Chen said flatly. The Council is now allowing you to threaten Earth itself. Why would we trust the Council to protect us? We protect ourselves. The Drexian representative's metallic body made a sound like grinding gears. This is insanity. Relativistic weapons are banned by every civilized species. The devastation they cause is exactly why you banned them, Chen said. Because they're effective. Because they're terrifying. Because even the most powerful empire can't defend against a chunk of metal moving at 70% of light speed. You ban them to protect yourselves, not out of moral principle. Ambassador Chen, the eldest said carefully, if you use such weapons, you will unite the entire galaxy against humanity. Every species will see you as a threat that must be eliminated. Then they shouldn't attack Earth, Chen replied. This is very simple. Don't threaten our homeworld, and we won't use weapons of mass destruction against yours. It's the same deterrence principle that kept Earth from destroying itself during our nuclear age. You threaten annihilation, we threaten annihilation back, and hopefully everyone decides to talk instead. The Vaxorian found his voice again. You would kill billions of Vaxorians because we threaten military action. You just threatened to bombard Earth and kill billions of humans, Chen pointed out. What's the difference? Oh, I know. The difference is that you expected us to surrender rather than fight back. You expected us to value our lives more than our freedom. You were wrong. She walked slowly around the platform. Here's what you don't understand about humanity. We are a species that nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. We fought wars that killed millions. We've built weapons that could sterilize our own planet. We know what war costs. We know the price of survival. And we decided long ago that we would rather die free than live as slaves. This is not slavery, the Quellan representative clicked. This is accepting proper authority. This is you telling us to surrender our weapons and accept your authority, or you'll kill us, Chen said. That's called conquest. And humanity doesn't accept conquest. We've fought against it on Earth dozens of times. We'll fight against it in space. The Cytherian elder spoke. Young human, you cannot believe you will win this confrontation. Even with your preparations, a united galactic front would overwhelm you. You're absolutely right, Chen agreed. If every species united against us, we'd lose. But they won't, because most of you are smarter than the Vaxorians. Most of you understand that starting a war with humanity would be very expensive even if you won. Most of you are sitting there right now thinking, why should we risk our ships and our people for Vaxorian pride? She looked at the Drexian. Your species has a border dispute with the Horth Collective, doesn't it? If you send your fleet to attack Earth, who's going to protect your colonies when the Horth decide to test your defenses? The Drexian made no response, but their metallic bodies seemed to dim slightly. Chen turned to the Quellan. And your alliance with the Vaxorians is less than a century old. How much do you really trust them? Enough to risk your fleet in a war where humanity has already promised to use every terrible weapon we possess? The clicking sounds the Quellan made were softer now, uncertain. Chen addressed the entire chamber. This is the reality of your coalition. You're not united by common cause. You're united by fear and pride. The moment the war turns expensive, the moment your casualties mount, you'll start asking whether it's worth it. You'll start remembering. Your other rivals? You'll start thinking about protecting your own interests instead of Vaxorian honor. Humanity will make it expensive, she continued. We won't fight fair. We'll use viruses and biological weapons. We'll target civilian infrastructure because your military depends on it. We'll make every system you take from us a poison prize, booby-trapped and worthless. We'll drag this war out for decades, and every year it continues. Your coalition will fracture a little more. The Vaxorians seemed to be losing confidence now, but pressed on. Even so, you cannot threaten to use relativistic weapons. The Council will never allow it. Show them, Chen said quietly to the air. Somewhere in human space, technicians executed a pre-planned demonstration. Every holographic display in the Council chambers suddenly showed the same image. A barren moon orbiting a gas giant in an uninhabited system. The moon was small, only about 300 kilometers in diameter. The view was from several satellites positioned at safe distances. That moon is designated LK447, Chen narrated. It has no resources, no colonies, no value. We selected it for a demonstration 3 weeks ago. What you're about to see happened 2 hours ago. On the screen, nothing seemed to happen for several seconds. Then the moon simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment, it was an expanding cloud of plasma and debris. The satellite sensors recorded the energy release. It was equivalent to 1,000 thermonuclear weapons detonating simultaneously. That was one projectile, Chen said into the stunned silence. 50 tons of iron accelerated to 72% of light speed. Flight time from launch to impact, 9 hours. The projectile itself is invisible to most sensors because it has no power source, no electronics, nothing to detect. Just metal moving very fast. She looked at the Vaxorian. We have projectiles already in flight toward 3 Vaxorian worlds. They're currently in transit, scheduled to arrive in 6 days. If your coalition fleet enters the Sol system, we will allow those projectiles to continue to their targets. If your fleet withdraws, we will divert the projectiles to hit uninhabited moons in Vaxorian space, just like this demonstration. You're lying, the Vaxorian said, but he sounded uncertain now. This is a trick. Check your long-range sensors, Chen suggested. We've transmitted the approximate trajectories. You won't be able to see the projectiles themselves, they're too small and too fast. But you can calculate the flight paths. You can verify that objects moving at relativistic speed are indeed heading toward your territory. Several delegates were frantically consulting their own governments through encrypted channels. The Vaxorian stood frozen, his crystalline body flickering with what might have been fear. You have 6 days, Chen said. Cancel your coalition fleet. Withdraw your threat against Earth. Allow those projectiles to hit empty moons, and we can all step back from the edge. Or continue with your plan to attack our homeworld and watch 3 of your own worlds die. This is terrorism, the Quellan clicked weakly. This is deterrence, Chen corrected. You want to kill billions of humans? We're promising to respond proportionally. The only difference is that we're being honest about our intentions, instead of pretending this is about proper authority or council law. The eldest's form flickered. Ambassador Chen. Humanity is crossing a line that cannot be uncrossed. If you use these weapons, then we'll use them, Chen said. We didn't want this. We hoped for peace. We've said that so many times that I know you're sick of hearing it. But you keep pushing. You keep threatening. You keep treating us like children who need to be disciplined. Well, we're not children. We're adults with very sharp knives, and we're tired of being pushed. She looked around the chamber one final time. So decide, Council. Accept that humanity is a power that must be respected, or start a war that will scar this galaxy for generations. Those are your options. Choose wisely. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked out of the chamber. Behind her, delegates began frantically communicating with their home governments. The Vaxorian stood motionless, his earlier confidence shattered. The coalition he had assembled was already crumbling as each species calculated the cost of war with humanity. On Earth, military commanders watched the galactic news feeds and waited. The projectiles were real. The threat was real. If the Vaxorians called their bluff, millions would die on both sides. But Chen was counting on something she had learned from studying galactic history. Empires valued stability. They valued predictability. They valued their own survival above all else. The Vaxorians were proud, but they weren't suicidal. She hoped she was right. Because if she was wrong, the galaxy was about to witness the most terrible war in its recorded history. And whether humanity won or lost, nothing would ever be the same. Earth's brutal retaliation stunned the Galactic Council into silence. Part 5. The new order, the Galactic Council chamber, had never been so quiet. 6 days had passed since Ambassador Chen's ultimatum. 6 days of frantic diplomatic activity. 6 days of intelligence agencies confirming the terrible truth that humanity had not been bluffing. The relativistic projectiles were real. They were in flight. And in 3 hours, they would reach their targets. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the center platform. She looked tired. The past week had aged her. But her eyes were clear and her voice was steady as she addressed the assembled delegates. The projectiles will impact in 2 hours and 53 minutes, she said. As I promised, If the Coalition fleet has withdrawn, the projectiles will hit uninhabited moons in Vaxorian space. If the fleet has not withdrawn, they will hit their primary targets. She paused. Has the fleet withdrawn? The Vaxorian delegate's crystalline body had lost much of its usual glow. When he spoke, his voice carried none of its earlier arrogance. The Coalition fleet has returned to our respective territories. The operation has been ... cancelled. A sound like a collective release of breath moved through the chamber. Chen nodded slowly. Then, in approximately 3 hours, you will observe impacts on 3 moons in your space. The explosions will be visible from your colonies. They will serve as a reminder of what almost happened. And hopefully, they will encourage everyone to think very carefully before threatening Earth again. The eldest's holographic form seemed more solid today, as if it had gathered itself for this moment. Ambassador Chen, humanity has demonstrated its power. You have made your point with terrible clarity. Now we must discuss what comes next, as Chen agreed. We must, because the galaxy has changed. The old rules don't work anymore. Either we create new ones that work for everyone, or we stumble into a war that destroys us all. The Turellian delegate spoke up, their voice carrying genuine curiosity rather than hostility. What do you want, Ambassador? Truly? If you could reshape the Council's structure, what would you ask for? Chen pulled out a data crystal and held it up. We've prepared a detailed proposal, but the core principles are simple. First, equal representation. Every species gets 1 vote in Council decisions, regardless of how long they've been members or how powerful they are. The Vaxorian vote counts the same as the human vote, counts the same as the newest member species. Several older delegates made sounds of protest, but Chen continued. Second, no species-based hierarchies. No ancient rights that let one species claim another's territory based on 1,000-year-old maps. No tiered membership where newer species have fewer rights. All members are equal under Council law. This would overturn 10,000 years of tradition. The Cytherian elder said, Your traditions were designed by the powerful to keep themselves powerful, Chen replied. They worked fine when everyone accepted their place. But humanity doesn't accept that we're somehow less worthy because we've only been here 50 years instead of 5,000. Why should we? The Quellan representative clicked thoughtfully. And your third principle? Collective security that actually works, Chen said. The Council claims to provide protection to all member species. But when the Kreth threatened us, the Council authorized the attack. When the Vaxorians assembled a fleet to invade Earth, the Council did nothing. Your protection only extends to species that powerful members don't want to bully. She looked around the chamber. We propose a real mutual defense pact. Any attack on a Council member is treated as an attack on all members. And I mean all members, not just the ones who are convenient. If the Kreth attack human colonies, the entire Council responds. If humanity attacks Kreth colonies, the entire Council responds against us. Equality means equality in protection and in consequences. The Drexian representative made a grinding sound. This would require every species to risk their ships defending others. Why would powerful species agree to this? Because the alternative is worse, Chen said simply. Look what happened when you let the old system continue. We nearly had a galactic war. 3 Vaxorian worlds nearly died. Your precious stability almost collapsed. The only reason it didn't is because humanity was willing to threaten mutual destruction. She gestured at the empty space around her. Do you want to live in a galaxy where every species has to build weapons of mass destruction to feel safe? Where every new member learns they need relativistic missiles and biological weapons and AI viruses to protect themselves? Because that's what we've created. We've shown every watching species that the only safety lies in being too dangerous to attack. The eldest was quiet for a long moment. You are saying that humanity's actions will inspire others to follow your example. We're saying it's inevitable, Chen replied. Other species watched the Kreth attack us with Council approval. They watched the Vaxorians assemble a coalition fleet to invade our homeworld. They watched humanity respond with weapons that terrified you. What lesson do you think they learned? The Cytherian elder made a sound like wind through metal. They learned that the Council's protection is worthless. They learned that only power matters They learned to copy humanity's methods. Exactly, Chen said. So you have a choice. Create a system where species don't need to be terrifying to be safe. Or watch as every species in the galaxy arms itself with the most horrible weapons they can build and pray that someone doesn't start a war that kills billions. The chamber was silent. The delegates were thinking about neighboring species, about rivals, about how quickly things could spiral out of control if everyone started following humanity's example. The Tyrellian spoke again. Your proposal has merit, but it requires trust. How do we trust humanity after what you've done? How do you trust us after how we treated you? Chen smiled slightly. Trust is built through actions, not words. Here's what we're prepared to do. If the Council accepts our proposals, humanity will share the technical details of our defensive preparations. We'll show you how we infiltrated your network so you can close those vulnerabilities. We'll explain our contingency plans so they're no longer secret weapons. You would give up your advantage. The Vaxorian asked, surprised. We'd give up the fear, Chen corrected. Right now you're terrified because you don't know what else we've prepared. That fear makes you unstable, makes you likely to overreact. We'd rather have you confident that you understand our capabilities. It's safer for everyone. And in return, the eldest asked, in return, you accept that humanity is a full and equal member of this council. You stop treating us like dangerous children who need to be controlled. You recognize that we have the right to defend ourselves, to grow, to thrive. And you extend the same protections to us that you demand for yourselves. Chen walked slowly around the platform, making eye contact with each delegate. I'm not asking you to trust us. I'm asking you to recognize reality. We can't go back to the old system. It's broken. The Kreth showed us it was broken. The Vaxorians proved it was broken. We need something new. Something that works for all species, not just the powerful ones. The Quellan made clicking sounds that might have been laughter. You nearly started a galactic war, and now you ask us to restructure our entire civilization? I'm asking you to prevent the next war, Chen said, because there will be a next one. Maybe not with humanity. Maybe between two other species who watched what happened here. Maybe between factions within the Council itself. Your old system was held together by the assumption that everyone accepted their place. That assumption is gone. Either we build something better, or we watch everything collapse into chaos. The eldest form flickered. The Council must deliberate. This is not a decision that can be made quickly. I understand, Chen said. Take your time. Consult your governments. Calculate the costs and benefits. But while you're deliberating, remember something. In 3 hours, you're going to watch 3 moons explode. That's what we were willing to do to defend ourselves. That's how seriously we take our survival. And we're not the only species in this galaxy who thinks that way. She pulled up a holographic display showing a star map. While you were focused on us, our intelligence services were watching other species. Do you know what we found? 17 different species have research programs that could produce relativistic weapons within 10 years. 9 species are developing AI warfare capabilities. 33 have biological research that could be weaponized. The delegates stared at the map in growing horror. Chen continued. You thought humanity was unique. We're not. We're just the first species brave enough or desperate enough to actually use what we developed. But we won't be the last. The age of the old council is over. The question is what comes next. She dismissed the hologram and looked at the eldest. So deliberate. Debate, but decide quickly. Because every day you wait, some other species is building weapons, making plans, preparing to do what we did. The galaxy is changing. You can guide that change, or you can be swept away by it. Ambassador Chen walked toward the exit. As she reached the door, the Cytherian elder's voice stopped her. Ambassador, if we accept your proposals, if we restructure the council as you suggest, what guarantee do we have that humanity won't simply use its new position to dominate others? Chen turned back. You have the same guarantee we have that you won't dominate us. None. No guarantees. No perfect solutions. Just the understanding that domination leads to resistance, and resistance leads to war, and war leads to destruction. We're all choosing between cooperation and chaos." She smiled tiredly. "Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We're busy enough trying to manage our own species. We just want to be left alone to live our lives, raise our children, explore the stars. The same things everyone wants. We'll cooperate with anyone willing to cooperate with us. We'll fight anyone who tries to conquer us. It's that simple." The eldest made a sound that might have been a sigh. So simple, and yet so difficult. "Yes," Chen agreed. "But difficult is better than impossible, and the old system has become impossible. So we try something new, or we fight. Those are the options." She left the chamber. The delegates sat in silence, each processing what they had heard. Finally, the eldest spoke. "We must vote. Not now, but soon. The human is correct, we cannot delay. But this decision will reshape our entire civilization. Every delegate must consult their government. We will reconvene in 3 days with preliminary positions." The Turellian spoke softly. "Do you think they'll agree? The powerful species have so much to lose. They have more to lose if they refuse," the Cytherian elder replied. The human demonstrated that very clearly. Better to share power willingly than to have it taken by force. Better to reform the council than to watch it tear itself apart. 3 hours later. The Vaxorian system lit up with 3 brilliant explosions as relativistic projectiles struck empty moons. The light was visible from every Vaxorian colony, every ship, every station. It was a reminder, a warning, and a promise. Humanity had kept its word. The projectiles had been diverted to harmless targets. But everyone understood the unspoken message. Next time, they might not be diverted. Next time, the consequences would be catastrophic. 3 days later, the council reconvened. The debates were intense. The powerful species argued for maintaining their privileges. The weaker species demanded equality. Compromises were proposed, rejected, revised. But slowly, painfully, a new framework emerged. It took 17 days of negotiation. But in the end, the vote came. Every species had 1 vote, as humanity had demanded. And by a margin of 32 to 15, the council approved the restructuring. The Galactic Council would have no more hierarchies based on age or power. Every species would have equal representation. Collective security would be real and binding. The ancient rights and privileges that had governed for millennia were abolished. When the vote was announced, Ambassador Chen stood and bowed to the assembly. "Thank you. On behalf of humanity and every species that has ever felt powerless in this chamber, thank you. You've chosen reform over conflict, wisdom over pride, the difficult path over the easy one." The Vaxorian delegate rose. His crystalline body glowed more brightly now, with what might have been respect. "You forced us to this point, Ambassador. Do not expect gratitude." "I don't," Chen replied. "I expect cooperation. I expect you to honor the agreements we've made. I expect you to treat other species with the respect you demand for yourself. That's all. The rest will follow." The session ended. Delegates departed to inform their governments of the new order. Humanity had not conquered the council. They had transformed it, made it into something that could survive in a galaxy, where power was distributed and species would not accept subjog. As Chen left the chamber for the last time that day, the Turellian delegate approached her. "Ambassador, a question, if I may. Of course, would you really have done it? If we had attacked Earth, would you really have killed billions of Vaxorians?" Chen looked at the Turellian for a long moment. "I don't know. I hoped I would never have to find out. But I was prepared to give the order. Because if I wasn't willing to do it, the threat would have been empty. And empty threats don't protect anyone. It's a terrible burden to carry." "Yes," Chen agreed. "Leading is often terrible. But someone has to do it. Someone has to make the hard choices, carry the dark knowledge, do the things that civilized beings find distasteful. That's what governments are for. That's what I signed up for when I became ambassador." She looked at the stars visible through the chamber's dome. "But I hope I truly hope that we never have to find out if I would have followed through, because now we have a chance at something better. A council that works. A galaxy where species cooperate because it's better than the alternative. The Terrellian nodded slowly. The humans have taught the galaxy a painful lesson. The galaxy taught itself, Chen corrected. We just held up a mirror. You saw your own reflection and didn't like what you saw. Now you have a chance to become something better. Don't waste it. Years later, historians would debate whether humanity's actions had been justified, whether the threat of relativistic weapons was ethical, whether forcing change through intimidation was truly different from conquest, but they could not debate the results. The restructured council proved more stable than the old one. Species that had been marginalized found their voices heard. Conflicts were resolved through negotiation rather than might. New members were welcomed as equals rather than subordinates, and humanity. The species that had nearly started a galactic war became known as fierce but fair partners. They kept their promises. They defended their allies. They contributed their knowledge and their strength to the collective good, but they also maintained their weapons, their preparations, their contingency plans, because they had learned a lesson too. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. Trust, but verify. Cooperate with friends and respect enemies, and never, ever let anyone think that humanity would accept less than equality. Never let anyone forget what humans were willing to do to remain free. The galaxy had learned to respect Earth, not through fear alone, but through the recognition that humanity would never bow, would never break, would never accept the role of victim or subject. They had come to the stars as explorers. They had become warriors out of necessity. And now, finally, they could be partners, equals, contributors to a galactic civilization that, for all its flaws, was better than what came before. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood on Earth, looking up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, the council was in session. New challenges were arising, new conflicts emerging. But humanity had proven it could handle them, could stand as equals with any species in the galaxy. She thought about the 3 moons that humanity had destroyed, about the Kreth installations they had attacked, about the terrible weapons they had revealed, about the precipice they had walked along. It had been necessary. She believed that. But it had also been costly, in trust, in innocence, in the hope that the galaxy was a kinder place than it was. But from that cost had come something valuable, a voice that could not be silenced, a place that could not be taken, a future that humanity would shape rather than endure. Chen smiled slightly and turned away from the stars. Tomorrow, there would be new negotiations, new challenges, new opportunities to build the future they wanted. But tonight, she could rest knowing that humanity had secured its place among the stars, not through conquest or domination, but through the simple, stubborn refusal to be anything less than equal. The galaxy had learned to respect humanity's brutal retaliation. Now it would learn to value humanity's determined cooperation. And that, Chen thought, was a victory worth all the terrible prices they had paid.